not the real food.
Not the real one.
Not the real one. It's not soccer.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to our Tanya class. Last week, we didn't have the class because of the women's program. It's nice to be back. So 2 weeks ago, we started learning chapter 18 of Tanya. And we spoke about the fact that every Jew has within him a natural, innate love for Hashem on account of the neshama that we have. And that comes from Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, who were the chariot of God, as we learned last week, if you remember, last time. And they merited that every single one of their descendants, meaning the Jewish people forever, will have within them a neshama that comes from either Atzilus or Bria or Yitzhak from one of the four worlds, whether even the lowest neshama has within it of the highest level of Chachma of Atzilus. Remember, we learned that, we spoke about it at great length and so on. We even went further and we spoke about the fact, we talked about what Chachma is as opposed to Bina, wisdom as opposed to understanding. And tonight we'll start from that point and we'll just give you quick refreshers. Okay? So we're on page 77. Where does this neshama of the godly neshama reside in the Jewish person? He's going to say it's in Chachma of his nefesh. In his level of Chachma. What's Chachma? So he's going to explain. Now, Chachma, wisdom, is the source of intelligence and comprehension. And it is above Bina, it's above understanding. In other words, in the level of Chachma, there's no understanding yet of a topic. We explained last week that it is a flash of wisdom, like a lightning bolt of wisdom that sometimes you find yourself in a difficult, you don't understand something and you're trying to understand it and figure it out and it's not going. And then you suspend, you open yourself up to a new light that shines into your mind. Then suddenly you feel, oh, you got it. But you can't yet explain it. You can't explain what you got. But you know something just went into your mind that you see that this will answer all my questions on this topic. You got the answer, but you can't yet explain it to anyone else. You can't even explain it to yourself yet. You don't understand it yet. It's below, it's above Bina. Bina is where you understand something. Chachma was this flash of wisdom. It's a lightning that shines in you, and for the moment you see that this will explain everything, but you don't. Now you have to take it into the level of Bina, of understanding, and take it apart, what you just experienced. We spoke about this last time. And we explained that in the level of Chachma, the topic, we're talking about an intellectual idea, right, that you're trying to understand and grasp. So it's beyond understanding yet, because it's like I said, it's this flash of wisdom. And what's dominant there is the idea shining in you. If you're open, you're suspended your own. In other words, you are not trying to assert yourself and trying to understand it at that moment. Because if you did that, you would lose it. You have to be bittul, you have to be in a state of bittul, to allow the topic, the idea, to shine within you. So you're not dominant, the idea is dominant. That's shining with its full force in you. Like a lightning, yeah? You see the whole thing, right? You see suddenly for a second it's light. That's what you feel in Chachma. But it's not, you don't grasp it yet. I don't know if you experience these things, but people that are involved in learning and understanding, and you get stuck in, and then suddenly you see, yeah, I have it, I think I have it. But you don't have it yet. You have it when you went through it and you compartmentalized it in the level of Bina. In Chachma, it's still in the state where the idea is shining within you and you're suspended. You're opening yourself up to something beyond you. In that sense, you have bittul. Bittul means self-effacement, self-nullification, humility. In Bina, that's where you begin to take charge. You begin to assert yourself. Okay, now I have to take this, what I just experienced, and take it apart, step by step, understand it, what's going on in its length, its breadth, and its depth, and so on.
So, but here it says intelligence and comprehension.
Mm-hmm.
Comprehension is understanding.
Right, it's the source of it. He says it's the source. The Chachma is wisdom, is the source of intelligence.
So, Chochma, Chacham is a person that is not that he is like, trying to understand everything. It's only to get the wisdom from
the first level of Chachma, the first level of intelligence, of understanding is Chachma, where you first get we allow the idea to shine within you. And that happens spontaneous. You're not ready for it.
And after that, you go to Bina,
then you have to try to take it apart and understand
digest
it exactly, and then you have it. Then you grasp it. In Chachma state, you're not grasping anything.
Okay.
You don't have it. You can't explain it. You don't even know. You can't even. You don't even really understand it yourself.
Okay, interesting. Because a Chacham is not the person that knows how to understand. Chacham is the person that gets all the information.
Well, when we say Chacham, it means that he's got a lot of understanding, wisdom. But the real Chacham is someone that has Chachma, bittul. Yeah. Let's see. Now, Chachma, wisdom, is the source of intelligence. That's the beginning of it. It's the source of it. And comprehension. And it is above Bina, understanding, which is intellectual understanding. Bina is already a full intellectual understanding and comprehension, whereas Chachma is above them and their source. Now, he says the word itself indicates this idea. The word Chochma in Hebrew. Note the etymological composition of the word Chochma, which is koyach ma, which means koyach means a power, a potential. It's a faculty of ma. What is? In the state of Chochma, you don't know what it is yet. You're asking, what did I just get? What is that? You still don't have it. But you know that something's there, and you know that this will illuminate the whole thing. But you can't say I have it yet. So it's koyach ma. It is a potential for what? And you're still asking, what is it? Because you don't quite have it yet. Chochma, koyach ma. That which is not yet comprehended and understood or grasped intellectually, that's chochma. Consequently, there is vested in it the light of the Ein Sof. Now going back to your neshama. What's he trying to get out over here? That where is this neshama that we talked about in the beginning of chapter 18, that every single Jew has a godly neshama from Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob? Where is this neshama present? In your soul, in your existence, in your chokhmah, in other words, in that level of chokhmah of your soul. That's where God's infinite light shines. You know why?
You don't understand it.
Because God is not graspable.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
The Ein Sof, the infinite God, is not capable. You cannot grasp the infinite God. There's a number of reasons.
So it'll never.
So that's why it's no. You can. I'll explain. That's why the Chokhmah is really the vessel or the seat or the place where the infinite God can reside, can shine. Why? Two reasons. But the most important reason, God is the sages say that God says that I cannot dwell where there's an ego present. Where you assert yourself, God's not there. Where is God to be found? Where there's bittul. In Chassidus, if you can learn Chassidus a lot, Tanya, get familiar with this word bittul. Bittul is an incredibly important word. Bittul means when you cancel yourself out. You're not present in the egotistical sense. Your self-effacement, you're nullified, you're abnegate your own ego. You put yourself aside. You put that's when you open yourself up to something above you. Where you assert yourself, that which is above you is not going to be, which is we're talking about here, God, is not going to rest within you. That's why Chokhmah is that place in the soul that's a seat, that's a vessel for God's infinite light. Why? Because in Chokhmah you're not assertive. In Chokhmah you have bittul. Because the level of Chokhmah by nature is bittul. Is this humility. Because you don't grasp anything. You just, and how do you experience Chokhmah, we said before? When you're stuck on a matter, let's go through this a second. When you are learning an intellectual concept, let's say astronomy or mathematics or whatever it may be, or Hasidus, godly wisdom, and you get stuck. Someone just walked in. And you get stuck. I don't understand what I just learned. And you have a question on it, and it's bothering you. So you're trying to understand it. Let me try to understand it deeper. No, and you can't. You don't get it. Open up. I guess the front door is locked. No, because the front door is probably locked.
Thank you.
Oh, Carlos, how are you?
How are you?
God, come sit.
Close the phone?
Front door is locked.
Huh?
Front door was locked.
Yeah.
Oh. I get him a Tanya. We have a Tanya for him. Oh, here. Okay. This is very important to understand what we're saying over here. So let me take a few minutes, explain it properly. When you're learning a topic, whether it's a godly topic, a Torah topic, or any wisdom, mathematics, philosophy, whatever it may be, and you're trying to figure out on the idea that you're learning, let's say it's quantum physics, you get stuck. You don't understand what you're reading. You don't understand the topic well. And it bothers you. So lazy people just move on. You'll go to the next topic. But if you're a serious student, you're a serious intellectual, you want to know it. It bothers you. So you try further. Go literally, you try to think about it even more. And then you realize, I don't get it. So you have to, you can't spend all your time. So you move on to whatever you do. Suddenly you're walking in the street. You're going to make a sale to a customer and you're thinking about this topic and suddenly a flash. The idea just illuminated in your mind. I see it. I have the answer. You get it. What happened? Why didn't you get it before? Sometimes what it requires is lazy. Don't assert yourself. Be mevatel yourself. Allow yourself to be open to something else. You don't exist. In other words, suspend your ego and let something higher than you shine in you. And that's when it happens. Then when you get it, when you have that experience, and anyone that deals with intellectual topics must have gone through this. I know I have many times. It does happen.
Yep.
You know exactly what I'm talking about. What has to happen in that moment is you have to take yourself, sit down immediately and take that flash and start to dissect it. Take it apart. That's Bina. That's where you begin to say, I have to now take charge. I have to now assert myself and take this apart now with my intellectual capacity and really try to understand this. When you're involved in the Bina process, the light is gone. You don't have that flash anymore. Because when you are asserting yourself, you're taking over. When you're taking over, it's going to be piece by piece. You know what the difference between Chokhmah and Bina is? The difference between seeing and hearing. How do you see something? When you look at a picture, we were just at the gallery, right? You see the whole picture once you see the whole everything. When you have to hear about someone, imagine an artist is trying to describe to you a painting that he just did. He's going to have to tell you on the right side it's yellow, and I made an ear, and this is that. He's going to describe you piece by piece. You're not going to get the whole thing in one time. Hearing is little by little. That's what Bina is. Bina is to dissect it part by part. How does it explain this? And how does that part? And you build a structure. That's hearing. When you see something, you see the whole thing in one shot. Why? Because when you're looking, you're there and the thing is shining within you. When you're hearing, you are there. You're now the one that's shining. And the thing is taking a secondary place, if you know what I mean. You're the one that's asserting yourself. The topic is no longer shining, so you're taking it in bit by bit. It's coming into you based on your Bina experience, which is little by little. So in Chochmah, so now when we transfer this idea, when we turn this idea into God and the Neshama, yeah? We said, where does God's infinite self, his infinite light, shines where? In Chochmah. And you're the Chochmah of your nefesh. Why in Chochmah? Two reasons. God cannot be where there's an ego. An ego doesn't mean a nasty ego. It means any ego. Even you're asserting yourself, that's an ego already. You have to have bittul in order to experience God. 1 second. So Chochmah is that power within you that has bittul, that has the ability to lay flat, to have that self-effacement, self-nullification. That's where Chochmah is, and that's why God fits right in there. Where you put yourself aside, God's there. And Chochmah is that power within your soul. To allow yourself, to know yourself, to open yourself up to a higher power. It's an extremely important
And the second reason?
A second, yeah.
If you're, what I'm understanding, and I might be wrong, if you assert yourself, you're in Bina, but why do we want Bina if we want the illumination of
I'll tell you why. Because if you only have the illumination of Chochmah, you'll never understand anything. Take mathematics, any topic. You're stuck on the topic, yeah, and suddenly you have this flash Chochmah, and the whole thing is shining right in your mind, and you see this. Wow, this is incredible. I have it. The whole thing is explained now. If I stopped you while you're in that moment and say, "No, explain it to me," you can't. Because you don't even know it yourself. You don't even grasp it yourself. So in order for that not to just fly away and have that, like a lightning, it comes and goes, right? You need to then take and now build the whole, you want to understand it at the end of the day. So you need Bina. You want Bina.
Yeah, again, I happen to me that I kind of have, a lot of,
Happens a lot.
all the time. So when you get this light, it's the moment you begin to go to Bina and try to.
Then you have to right away
construct everything to explain that.
To explain it to yourself, and then you
get something that is okay, but happen all the time.
It happens
in any moment.
And the beauty is, there's something so magical about Chochmah. In that moment where you have that flash of wisdom, it's incredible. It really is you feel like, wow, there's something. You got the illumination. But you can't stay with that. You have to then take it apart and make it a full structure of understanding in your mind. Otherwise, you'll never understand it really. Because that flash of wisdom is like a lightning. What happens to the lightning? Imagine dark in the street, yeah, and you don't know where to go. Where's the street? Where's the trees? I don't want to bump into a tree. So you wait for a lightning, right? What happens when there's a lightning? Suddenly the whole street lights up for a second. Okay, now I know this is the road, or it's there. But then once the lightning is gone, now you have to reconstruct. What did I just see? Where's the tree? Where's the this? That's what Bina is in the intellectual process.
Even though something happened that you try to do something, and you try and try and say, okay, let's go do something different. And you go to do something different, and in the moment you say, I know how to do it.
You're talking about intellect right now. Yeah, an intellectual idea, right?
Something you say, I know how to do it. You try to do it, but you put, even though you try to find something, you don't find it. Try. You go to do something else, and the moment you say, oh, I know what it is. So it's like something is coming. Of course, you have to.
Yeah. That's what we described.
So this is processes, but it's completely. So you don't know what is you don't know the difference. So it's coming to you, but you don't know what is the Chochmah and what is the Bina.
That's Chochmah and that's Bina. That's exactly what Chochmah is, and that's what Bina is. Yes. Now, back to the neshama in the human experience. This is why it's in Chochmah that God's light shines. The first reason we explained, right? The second reason is because God is beyond grasp. So in Bina, you can never grasp Hashem really. The infinite light of Hashem can't be grasped in Bina. You're a finite mind. You're never going to be able to grasp infinite light. Where could you get where is God, therefore, present in your neshama? Only in Chachma, which is that part of you which is beyond your Chachma, it's beyond your understanding. You submit yourself to something higher. Well, that's what we call faith. Let's read it inside. Note, we're going to do that etymological. Yeah? Note the etymological composition of the word chachma, koyachma, 2 words. The potentiality of what is. That which is not yet comprehended and understood or grasped intellectually. That's why you're still asking, ma, what is it? Koyachma, what? I know it, I have something, but I don't know what it is yet. Yeah. Consequently, there is vested in it the light of the Ein Sof, the infinite God, blessed be He, who can in no way be comprehended by any thought. When we say that God can be comprehended by thought, what does that mean? Through understanding. You can never understand God. That's not the way to get to God. If you want to get God, you use your intellect for it, you're using the wrong tool for grasping God. The intellectual brain cannot grasp God because He's beyond intellect. It's beyond your intellect. It's beyond our understanding. That's why it's only in Chachma that you can get Him. Because Chachma is you putting yourself, that's that part of you that allows you to open yourself to something that's beyond the human experience. Let's read it inside. Hence, all Jews, even the women and the illiterate,
God, what is this going?
I'll explain. Yeah, no, I'll explain.
There's a difference.
I'll explain.
Look, he knows.
Yeah, sure. I'll explain.
But I tell
I'll
you,
explain to you.
women are more connected with the husband than men.
No, that's not the point here. Let me explain to you.
Let me get something.
Let's not play around. Let's tell the truth.
He understood it.
Yeah, sure. I explained the last time also when there was something that the women did. What he's saying is 250 years ago, women didn't learn a lot of Torah, so they were not very knowledgeable in Judaism, in Torah knowledge that much. They didn't do it. It wasn't their thing.
Is this a class for women too?
Yeah, sure. So that's why, because today women do learn, and women should learn, but then they didn't.
But they learn too much. Example, my
No.
wife.
So they didn't know much of Jewish knowledge. They observed, they kept, they did everything right and so on. But the knowledge, the experience of learning wasn't a very common thing. So what ended up happening? They didn't have the knowledge. What the Alter Rebbe is saying of it, that even someone that doesn't have the knowledge, or men who don't learn. He's saying women who didn't learn and men who didn't learn. Right. Illiterate. He means and the illiterate.
Jews,
And and the illiterate. He says and the illiterate. Who's he talking about? The men that are illiterate. There were a lot of men that were illiterate too.
Let me ask you a question.
But back then, especially.
What changed from then to now that women can now learn?
Why not? Oh, you're asking why now all of a sudden? It's a more open society. Women have made a lot of progress in the last 100 years. So they've taken to learning. It's a different world.
Before they were cooking and taking care of the
Right,
kids,
exactly. Yeah. They didn't have time for it. Today they also do those things primarily, but they learn a lot. They're learning more than they did. So the point over here is what's the Alter Rebbe trying to say? That even people who don't have an understanding of great knowledge of spiritual knowledge, they also have an absolute equal faith in Hashem, just like the greatest scholars. And the question is how? How could you believe if you don't know anything about it? How could you believe in it if you don't even know anything about it? Well, knowledge is very limited. She said because knowledge is not the key to faith. It's not the way you get to faith. And why? Why? You would think it is, right?
If women didn't learn back then, how do they know that even women have faith?
Because they did have faith.
Yeah, but they didn't learn. So how can
That's what he's saying. That the faith doesn't come from knowledge. It doesn't come from intellectual knowledge. Why? Where does faith come from? What is faith? He's describing there what real Jewish faith is. Let's see what he said. It's therefore, he says, hence all Jews, even the women and the illiterate, who didn't learn back then, believe in God since faith is beyond understanding and comprehension. the ignorant Jew, his faith was equal to the faith of the greatest scholar. Why? Because faith is not coming from knowledge. Where's faith coming from?
Spirit.
Let's understand that. What is faith? If you don't understand what you're believing, then what is
It's
it?
the flash.
Is it blind faith?
No.
What is faith?
It's hope.
Well, the definition of it
More
is
than hope,
to believe
it's
in
not-
something you can't see.
To believe in something you can't see. Why should a person believe in something that he has no knowledge of? Should we be believing in things that we don't understand?
Believe in the higher
Maybe it's a
power.
bad thing to believe.
Believe that the higher power can make things happen.
One second. Let me articulate the question. Let's take an example. You have today people that believe that if you blow yourself up on a bus and kill 20 Jews, you'll have a paradise with 72 women.
No, that's not faith.
That is faith.
That's stupidity.
They believe this. You're saying it's stupidity. They don't. So how do you know it's stupidity? It is stupidity. But here's the question: what is faith based on? If you start just going to believe without knowing, then what's this faith and what's this faith? How do you know what to believe in? How do you know what to believe in?
You don't know
So why do you believe?
because you know there's a higher power that will make things happen.
You never see. He's saying he defined it as something you don't see.
Yeah,
How
of
do you
course.
know there's a higher power?
You believe in the higher power.
Oh, I know, and they believe that there's 72 women
Yeah,
waiting
that's
for them.
why they
up there.
do it with faith. And believe in
That's what
faith.
I'm saying. So you have faith and they have faith.
Yeah.
What's the difference?
No, no different.
There's no difference. So how do you know? So you're saying they're believing in something
Yeah.
stupid. How do you know that what you're believing is not something stupid?
Because it's for the good.
Just because, wait a minute. That's a good point. Okay, I get you. As long as I'm not killing anyone,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
That's not enough of a reason to believe. I don't want to believe in things that just, how do I know if it's real? Because it doesn't lead me to kill people. That's not enough of a reason to believe. I want to know, why should I believe in something if I don't see it and I don't understand it? It's an important question.
So, if from my point of view, we came here with a neshama, that have, other life or don't know, but we came here, we know there is some power.
Yep.
The point is the way you live your life is where other people put in you what is, the condition, like you said. Someone says to someone that they need to blow themselves and to go to the, to
Let's
the
forget about such radical belief. Let's talk about basic belief. People that believe in Jesus.
Again, they
People
believe
that
in some
believe
power.
in miracles.
It depends where you born, where is your culture. You will take this belief in something that is Jesus, that is Muhammad, that is something different, or Brahma, or I don't know what. But you come here with some ideas.
In other words, a lot of people. I don't understand what you're saying. Could you say that again?
You came when you born. You came with.
You were
some
trained
belief.
to believe that. You didn't come with the belief.
I
No
think
one's
it's
born with a belief in Jesus.
No, you came with some belief in some powers. It's because
When you're born?
It's in your soul.
No, some people don't have any faith.
Some people don't have
Some
faith.
people don't have faith.
They don't have any
So
faith.
let's try and understand it. This is a very important
your
word. It's a very important question.
That's
Let me
because you believe.
Let me
it.
explain.
So you say that-
give me the 5 minutes and I'll explain.
Okay, go ahead. So because I thought that we came with some kind of
Good question.
Let's
with
answer.
some kind of ideas because what is we came with something.
Came into the world with something.
It was passed down to us.
In other words, no. When you're born, you don't know anything. You don't believe. When you're a tiny baby of 1 day old, you don't know anything.
But you have a neshama.
You're not.
Neshama
I
knows-
know. I'm not talking
you have
about neshama.
connection
I'm
with
talking about the faith in things. Not everyone has a neshama. Not everyone has a neshama. They have a human soul. Now, the human soul is. Faith comes from either. You can be trained to believe. From when you're a little baby, they already start telling you about these things, and you grow up and you don't know anything different, and you just believe in it. And that's how generations of people believe. My mother told me this, and I trained myself to. They trained me to believe this. That from when I'm 2 years old, I'm going to the synagogue or to the church or to wherever, and I believe. You grow up believing. It's hard to undo such a belief. It's hard to undo such a faith, something that you grew up with all your life. But why are people believing in this to begin with?
Why not?
I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why not. 3,000 years ago, no one was born with a belief in Jesus, right? You know that? Why not? Because there was no Jesus 3,000. He only was born 2,000 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously it started somewhere, such a belief. Why do they believe this? Or Judaism.
It's faith.
I know, but I'm asking. Should we have faith in just things that just you're told? Where's the end of that? Where does that begin and where does that end? Where does it become stupid in your mind? You just said that what they believe is stupid.
Yeah.
How do you know what you believe is not stupid?
When you're harming people.
It has nothing to do with harming people and those that don't harm people and they believe that.
I think faith is something that has to have a good end, basically, and not something that is focused to the bad things. That's faith.
Forget
Yeah,
about
but again,
bad, good. Let's leave it go bad and good. Let's leave it go bad and good. Let's leave go of bad and good. If I believe, if someone comes in here and tells you, if I come here today and I tell you, I was on Weston Road 15 minutes ago and I saw 4 angels that appeared to me. Should you believe that?
Yeah, why not?
Okay, so anyone tells you I saw an angel, do you believe them?
Not
Why
anymore.
not?
Not anymore.
No?
But if my rabbi
I don't know,
tells
you
me, I
tell
might-
me.
I might think about
So
it for
what?
a minute.
And how about that they tell you, and the angel told me to tell you, Carlos, that you should do 10 jumping jacks.
No,
That you wouldn't believe anymore. Why?
because that's stupid.
Or they tell you, write a check for $1,000 for poor people. It's not stupid.
I would do it.
You would do it. So if I came in and told you that 4 angels just
You
appeared
just
to me
figured out your
15
new
minutes,
pitch.
and right. So if
For
I
Carlos.
told, no, really, serious.
Oh, you're in for it, buddy.
No, but again, you
I'm not going to use it. Don't worry.
We don't have any poor people here.
What happens in class stays in
Believe it or
class.
not. Yeah. The point is, it's a fundamental question. Why should I believe in things that I didn't see? Why should I? Now, if it's not harmful, if it's harmless, you want to believe it, believe it. It's not going to bother. I know, but with intellectual people, with smart people, should we believe all we hear? Everything we hear from
No,
people?
but-
No. So I'm asking you, so when yes and when not?
Faith is something that it's convenient to you, basically.
Nah, that's not what faith is.
I want to hear the answer.
That's
None of
not
us are going to know it. So.
what faith is not nothing to do with convenience.
Well, I
Because
mean, you
Jewish
wanna
faith
believe-
is anything but convenience, as you will hear
You
soon.
wanna believe
It's
in-
anything but convenience. See, what Moses did, he went up a mountain, and he came down and said, by the way, I've got news for you. There's 613 things you're going to have to start doing because of this faith. So it was anything but convenient. All of a sudden, you're not allowed to eat this, and you're not allowed to marry this, and you're not allowed to talk this, and you're not allowed to see that, you're not allowed to... It's began to become a major, major burden on Judaism, on Jewish people. They have to stop putting on tefillin, daven 3 times a day. It's a big burden. That's not convenient. Yet we believe it. Why? Okay, so here's the answer. In Hasidic philosophy, there's something called emunah lemata mitam v'das, and faith that is below knowledge, and then there's emunah that's above knowledge. Alter Rebbe is talking over here in chapter 18 about emunah, faith that is above knowledge. What is the words that he uses over here? Hence, all Jews and women and Jewry believe in God, since faith is beyond understanding and comprehension. It's higher than comprehension. There's faith that's below comprehension. If someone says, I believe in whatever, like a 5-year-old believes, yeah? 5-year-olds believe. You talk to 5-year-olds, God, Torah, yeah, they will
Tooth
believe.
fairy.
No, I'm talking about real belief. And they believe in the right things, but they never develop that knowledge. They never really, because the faith that is not, they never try to understand anything that they believe in. And when they're 30, they still believe like a 5-year-old.
Mhm.
That's called a munah, that's below knowledge. Or even worse yet, when you believe in silly things. There's a lot of people that believe in really silly things. It's not good. You should not believe when you're 30 like a 5-year-old believes. Why? First of all, you shouldn't believe in silly things ever. And second of all, even if you're believing in the truth, which is God, You should try, when you're 5 years old, you believe like a 5-year-old, and then you should try to understand and learn and try to understand more about God, so then you can then reach a higher level of faith. You'll always have faith, but you want to be able to, the level of God that, could you understand that God exists? Yes, you could. Of course you could. You can rationalize God's existence, absolutely. Of course, I believe in God because it makes sense, not because my father told me. When I was 5, I believed because my father told me, because nothing made sense to me then. I'm 5 years old. I don't know. I can't make sense of anything. I'm too. My brain is too. What do you call it? Undeveloped. So I had to. So my faith came from my father, or from my neshama, but from my father on a conscious level. Okay, my father told me what to believe. That's how 5-year-olds are trained. Their father tells them what to believe, right? They can't figure it out on their own. The father tells them what to believe. But then they grow up, and they go to yeshiva, and they go to classes, and they learn about what they believe. Okay, now let's understand. You told me to believe in God, okay? Well, when you're 25 years old, you don't need to believe in the existence of God. That makes sense. That's something you can understand with your rational mind, that God exists, that this world didn't come from by itself. You don't need to be a deep believer at 25 years old to know that God exists. That I know, it makes sense in my mind. I can learn and understand that. Over there, I could have bina. My bina, my understanding grasps the fact that God exists. It doesn't make sense that this world just came by itself. You can explain to me this theory, that theory, but at the end of the day, my mind tells me that all these theories are all lacking. And the only theory that makes sense, bina, is that God exists, that God created the world. I don't need to have faith in the existence of God. What then is faith of a 25-year-old? Okay, so God exists. That's on the level of bina. It's on the level of bina. But once you know that God exists, what is God? He's infinite. He's all-knowing. There's so many aspects of God that you'll never be able to understand. That you relegate to faith. But where does your faith come from? Where does faith come from? What is faith? Let me define faith for you. Faith is like something you see.
Is what?
Something you see. Understanding comes from that which you hear. You're told, you teach it, you have a professor, he teaches you, you hear it, it makes sense, it's absorbed in your mind, it makes sense. What is faith? How does a person have faith in God? The Alter Rebbe is going to say over here in chapter 18 that a Yid believes in God because two things. First, he's going to say like this. It comes from his chokhmah. Chokhmah is like seeing. A Yid sees God. A Yid, his identity is God. It's even more than seeing. It's even more than seeing. God is the very identity of a Jew. Because he has a neshama of God within him, and he experiences. How do we know that a Yid experiences God at that level? Where do you see this? Where do you see that a Yid has such a recognition of God, as if he sees it, or even more than seeing, it's his experience? Where do you see this? You know where you see it? I'll tell you where you see it. You see it in martyrdom.
Where?
Martyrdom. You know what martyrdom is? A person who gives up his life for Judaism, for God. There's a unique feature among Jews throughout history that they were ready to give up their life for God. Now, you can find that in other cultures too. They're ready to die for their beliefs, right? But there's something unique about Jewish Mesiras Nefesh. Mesiras Nefesh means self-sacrifice. Something unique that only by Jews do you see it. You know what that is? A non-religious Jew will die for his religion. That is only by Jews. That's the only people we saw such a thing is by Jews. You can find a lot of Muslims that will die for their religion. You can find a lot of Christians that will die for their religion. Back in the day, maybe today as well, You can find a lot of people who die for their beliefs. But the only way they will die for their beliefs, whether he's a Muslim, a Christian, an American, whoever it may be, is if he's passionate about his belief. If he's a super religious person, he's dedicated to that belief, then he's even ready to die for it. By Jews, you saw a phenomenon that was very different. And it needs to be understood, and I want to spend the next few minutes on this. You saw Jews who were not religious. They died for God. How does that happen? That needs to be analyzed. That is a contradiction of terms. Why are you dying for this thing? Oh, because I'm very, very passionate about it. You're not passionate about it. You ate treif. A day ago you ate things that are not kosher. You weren't keeping Shabbos. You're not passionate about this at all.
Where do we see God?
One second. You weren't passionate about it at all. And yet, when some of these people were challenged by the enemies of the Jews, and they put them to the test and say, if you don't convert, you're going to be dead. And they went to their death. This cannot be explained as idealism. They're not idealistic about Judaism. They're not religious. They're clearly not religious. That means they're not idealistic about Judaism. But yet they're ready to die for this. That's a phenomenon, a contradiction of terms. There's a phenomenon here that it screams at you. What is going on there? Why is this happening? The answer is in this chapter of Tanya. A Yid's very identity is elikus, is godliness. God's infinite light is shining in his nefesh, in his soul. He experiences godliness. And that's why when the ultimate test comes to deny that godliness, he'll never do it. You know why he's ready to eat non-kosher? Because he thinks you can eat non-kosher and still be a good Jew. But the minute you tell him convert out of Judaism, over here he can't. You know why? Because his identity is God. His neshama is full of God's infinite light. He can't give it up. Even though a day ago he wasn't davening, he wasn't learning, he wasn't keeping kosher, he was anything but idealistic about this faith. Yet when the test came, he jumped into the fire and died.
Not all of them.
Listen, it's enough that even a few did.
Okay. Because what about
Many, many, many did.
Can I ask a question?
I would say everyone has freedom of choice. You can deny your nature too.
You're still a Jew, though.
Yeah. If what?
If you deny the sacrificing your life for God.
If you don't sacrifice
Right.
your life for God.
I
You have a
know-
neshama. There's no
I
doubt
know
about that.
in the Inquisition time when I was in
There were a lot of Jews that converted.
in
Yeah.
Toledo, these people says that they convert,
Yeah,
but they never
were-
converted.
But
Yeah,
even
some did.
but listen to this. Listen to this.
A
Listen
lot
to
of them
this.
did.
I'll tell you a story. My father-in-law once told me the
They
story.
were
It's a
priests.
famous story. I think it's in Crocker. Maybe not. Maybe it's a different city. There's a Jew over there. There's a tombstone. And on the tombstone it says, this is the tombstone of Yossel, the holy Ganav. Ganav is a thief. That's what they wrote on his tombstone. The holy thief Yossel.
Where is this, Rabbi?
I think in Krakow, but maybe it's somewhere else.
You've told us this.
What's the story? I told you the story. What's the story? The story, I'll remind you the story. There was a Yid that made a living off thievery. That's what he did. He was a gunner. Would steal from him $15 and go to the next guy by night and still burglarize his home and he would cheat it. He stole. That was the way he fed his family. Clearly not a religious Jew. So let's steal it. Then one day he decided that, I keep every day I have to go find another place to rob. I can't live like this. I gotta find a place, a rich place, man, that has a lot of money, make one good robbery, and I'll live off this for the next 5 years. And stuff, this way, they'll go steal every night. Here 5 ruble, here 2 ruble. Ridiculous. I need to find one rich guy that has a lot of money in this town, and I can rob him clean, and I'll have hundreds and thousands of rubles, and I can live for the rest of my life, or for 5-10 years. But no one in town had money. But there was one place that did have all these riches, treasures. the church. So he planned it out that he's going to rob the church, and they have all the money they need. Good. He robs. He goes in one night. He makes a break-in, and as he's climbing down, and he's almost ready to escape, and he made his fortune, the police caught him. But this was an unbelievable offense because the church took it very bad. This is like, you're stealing from the church means it's an offense to Jesus. It was So they ruled in those days. They had, the church was in charge. They're going to kill him. They're going to burn him in the center of town in a public spectacle. They're going to burn him to death because he violated such a terrible thing against the church. He deserved the death penalty. So the priest set the date when he's going to be burned to death. And they offered him a chance. They said, you can escape this fate if you convert to Christianity. They gave him that choice. He said, no way, I'm not converting. I'm a Jew, I'm not converting. They set up the fire, and the whole town, in the town square, they came. It was a big spectacle. It's a true story. And they brought him on the church where the priest said to him, look at your kids. You have little kids that you have to feed. They're going to be without a father. Why not? I'm giving you a choice to convert to Christianity. We'll forgive you. That's it. Don't worry about it. And it says, the story goes, that this Yosef, the Ganev, made a big announcement to the people. He says, Yosef is a Ganev, but Yosef is a Jew. And he jumped into the fire. And he got killed. He burned to death. They burned him to death. Now let's analyze this story a little. Why is he jumping to his death and not saving his life to convert to Christianity? You'll say, but he's a very passionate Jew, but he's not. He's clearly not a passionate Jew. He's a low-life Jew. He's stealing for a living. That's not a passionate Jew. He's not idealistic about Judaism. So why is he not choosing to live and just, say I'm Christianity? Who cares? The answer is because that's what Chochmah of his nefesh, because in his Chochmah of his nefesh is the experience of godliness. It's not some faith that he has that someone else told him. This is something he sees and he experiences, even more than seeing. And that's why he's incapable of giving up that Judaism. He can't, when he's pushed to the wall and he has to deny his very identity, he'll never be able to do it. The Alter Rebbe probably said it more than once, a Yid, not he wants and not he's capable of denying God. He doesn't want to and he's not capable. Why not? Because his faith, that's called faith above intellect. This faith that's below intellect, stupid faith. A lot of people believe in ridiculous things. That's chokhmah, that's a faith that's below intellect. That's blind faith. That's stupid faith. But to believe in the Eibishter, in Torah, a Yid believes in God, that's beyond faith. It's beyond his intellect. It's the level where you suspend your intellect and you reach higher than intellect. That's the chokhmah of your nefesh. Bina is intellect. This goes deeper than that. A Yid has this. And only a Yid has this. That's the uniqueness of the chosen people. The chosen neshama. That's what the neshama is. It's a piece of God that's in you. And you can't deny it. It's your very identity. And the proof is in that very thing, that a Yid that's not passionate about Judaism, on a regular day, he's sinning right, left, and center. And he's giving up his life for Judaism. It's such a contradiction of terms. It's because the neshama, when you pressed him to the wall, Chochmah Shebenefesh burst out. And he says, stop, you can't do this. And he doesn't. Because you're trying to deny my very existence, my very identity.
Question, what about thousands of Jews in the Inquisition? They lie saying that they will convert, but they keep going to Judaism. Like I tell you, I remember when I was in Toledo and I saw there was theoretically a church, but if you go deep, there was a synagogue. They was, they say something, but they didn't comply what they say. Even though Yom Kippur we say Yom Kippur in Zeh, Yom Kippur in Abba. So I will say something that I will not comply, but I will keep going to my Judaism. Question to you is, this is wrong?
To convert clandestine, yeah, it's wrong.
Yeah,
it's wrong. Of course,
to convert, but to convert from.
No, it's wrong. It's wrong. Of course.
What about the people that are not told you're going to die if you don't, and they choose to convert, and like a Jew for Jesus, like what do you? How is that possible that they're not denying or they're not?
Because I know several people.
One second, let me understand the question. How is it possible for a Jew to deny his faith? Basically, that's what you're asking. Like I said before, we do have freedom of choice at the end of the day. So you can choose to kill yourself. Some people jump off the roof and kill themselves. It goes against the grain. It goes against their very innate nature. Why are they doing that? You can deny, you can choose to deny. What? I have a better question. How is a Jew eating not kosher? That also goes against his very identity. How are you doing that? The answer is that this neshama is not always revealed. That's the problem. The neshama is enclosed in a human soul. We also have a human soul that enlivens our body. And the neshama is enclosed in the human soul that is in the body, right? The human soul is klipa. So the klipa meaning the shell, the husk, that which conceals godliness, can conceal your neshama so that it clouds it. But what happens when you face this? What happens? What does it mean that it clouds it? You say to yourself, I'm still a Jew, even if I eat non-kosher. Ask any Jew that's eating non-kosher. You realize that you're not Jewish if you don't keep... What do you mean I'm not Jewish?
That's
not
true.
only am I Jewish, I'm still a good Jew.
That's true.
They don't even think that there's a problem. It's not that there's it. There's a spirit of folly that enters a Jew and says, you can still be a good Jew and do this. It's a spirit of folly. It's not true. But that's what we think. But how far could you make that mistake? With kosher, with Shabbos even, with other... Well, when you say... You gotta bow to the idol. You can't fool yourself at that point, and that's why he jumped into the fire. When it came to stealing, he said, "I'm still a Jew. I could be a Jew and steal." He did not say, "I could be a Jew and convert to Christianity," and that's why he jumped into the fire. He gave up his life. You know what it means to give up your life?
I have a friend. Answer the question. I have a friend, older guy, Jewish. His wife, born again Christian. This is his third marriage, but they've been together now for 25 years. And because of her influence on him, he believes in Jesus.
Right.
But he does identify himself still as being Jewish.
Right, that's the way they do it. Anyway, so obviously, a person has to be aware that he has a neshama. Someone that's totally unaware that he has a neshama is not going to, he's unaware. There's no, everything has to have, you have to be conscious of this. Your mind has to know this, that you have a neshama. I'll give you an example. Yeah, I've given this example in the past. Do you have a natural love for your father?
Yes.
Yeah. You have a natural love for your child? Yeah, obviously. You know that in the Holocaust there were people that lost contact with their family. Surviving, they lost contact. They found out that they have a brother alive 20 years later, 30, 50 years later. It's possible that they're sitting on a park bench together and they don't even know they're brothers. Right? You could be sitting near your father, near your son, near your daughter, near your friend, near your brother, sister. You don't even, if you're not aware that this is your sister, you're not going to have a love for them. But imagine they tell you, Yankel, I'm your brother. Suddenly you see them hug. There's an unbelievable love suddenly that popped out from nowhere. A minute ago you were sitting next to him, you had no interest in him. You have to know that you have a neshama. Of course you have to know you have a neshama. If you don't even know that you have a neshama, it's like sitting there a stranger on a park bench. If you don't know it's his father, you're not going to love him. You have to know that you have a neshama. If you know that you have a neshama, you're going to jump into the fire rather than denying it. And you can have your klipa cloud it and conceal it up to a certain point. Now, you did have people, like he's asking, or like you're asking, that went even further. They went to convert. That's freedom of choice. A person does have the freedom of choice to deny his very existence. You see that in life in general. People do all sorts of things that are beyond belief that they can do such things. But it goes against their nature. The nature of a Yid is that he's not going to be able to deny his existence. And that's the proof that a Yid has a neshama. If you're dying for your idealism, that's not a neshama. You believe in something, you've grown to be passionate about it, and you can't allow, and someone says, you can't live and I'm going to kill you if you believe in this, he'll say, I'd rather die. Because his life became his idealism. So if you take away the idealism, I'd rather not live, so he'll die. Some people even go one step further. They'd rather die and be written up in the papers and have and maybe they're thinking about the world to come, and they'll have a, reward in the world to come if they're religious
they also
people.
die for their religion. Right?
Yeah, but that's a passionate. That's because they're idealistic about their religion. Yes, because they're idealistic about their religion. You will never die if you're not idealistic about it. Only a Jew is going to die, even though he's not idealistic.
What's the ideal in the Christianity? What was the ideal?
Some people are very idealistic about their faith.
So what was the ideal? I understand the Muslims, but
Their ideal, whatever they believe it strongly. They're totally dedicated to it.
What's the difference between that and the Jew?
I'm telling you the difference. That a Jew will give up his life for God even though he's not idealistic about God. That's a unique Jewish phenomenon that doesn't exist anywhere else.
I have a question for you. One of the what happened to me is that, I am very, when someone says, what is your country? I says, I live in the state, I born in Argentina, but I say, what is my country? Is Israel.
Some
Something
people will die for Israel.
Exactly. You say, if you die from Israel,
Again, that's in the neshama.
Or is it higher?
It's higher. It's because it's in the neshama. It's coming from the neshama. The point is, an American can die for America. Soldiers die for America all the time. They go to fight and they die. They're idealistic about the Constitution. They're idealistic about this country. They love this country.
They die for Jesus.
It's same thing. Because they're that's right. That's their God. So they're because they're
ideal. That's their reality.
Meaning they're idealistic about their belief. But if you're not ideal, imagine you've got a guy in the street that never went to church for the last 10 years, and he never read the Bible.
It could be
Wait a minute, let me finish. He never read the Bible, and you say to him, are you a religious Christian? Not really. Okay, and the next day you go to him and say, if you don't give up your Christianity, I'm going to kill you. He's not going to get killed. He will not go to his death if he's such a Christianity is not in his blood.
But Rabbi, couldn't you say that dying for Judaism is also an idealistic?
That's what I'm telling you. I'm telling you there were stories of people that were not idealistic about Judaism, that were very secular, and they died for their religion. Go figure. That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, but just the simple fact of dying for being a Jew is an ideal.
It isn't. Why? So why weren't you living like a Jew till today?
He's not living like this guy was not living like a Jew. So why would he?
So why? But he did.
It's an ideal.
Oh no, but he's not. What does ideal mean? When I say idealistic, what I mean by idealistic is a regular person is ready to die for his idealism. People reach that level that they're so idealistic about something that they're even ready to give up their life for it, to promote the idea, to make it even stronger when people see that I was ready to die for it. It'll promote the belief system and so on. There's a lot of reasons people die for their idealism. But you'll never find a person that has no idealism for this and will die for it. That you'll never find. You'll never find such a thing, except by Jews. That's a phenomenon that's uniquely Jewish. They're not idealistic about Judaism. They don't keep the mitzvahs. They're very callous about it, and yet they're ready to die for it. That is something totally unreasonable. It makes no sense. It's super rational. It's a super rational thing. Where does this come from? It comes from Chachma Shebenefesh. Because godliness is in that level of your soul, and that becomes your identity. You will never find such a phenomenon by any other people in the world. Religious, non-religious, nothing. There's no such thing. No such thing.
So a Christian who
Will give
doesn't
up his
live-
life if he doesn't live Christianity. He will not die for Christianity. Check it, and believe me, that's the case. You know what it means to
But you know
die
how
for
many-
something, to give up your life. It's a big step. Unless you're really enthusiastic about this thing, you ain't giving up your life for it. You'd rather live. Most people would rather live than give up. Even if you are idealistic, it's hard to die for your idealism. Imagine if you're not idealistic. A Jew, somehow, he gives up his life even if he's not idealistic about Judaism. It's crazy. It makes no sense, but it's true. And we've seen this numerous times throughout history.
I remember
Thousands and thousands of times.
I remember
Unfortunately.
one thing right now that when I was in my country with the military and the government, when I went there and they asked me what is my religion, and for me it was easy to say that I'm not Jew, but I say I'm a Jew, and even though that I know that that to be writing that a Jew with the military and the government is something that is difficult because you know what I mean, because it's something that they don't like, and even though they are against. And there was, so again, I understood what you said when someone asked you. You said I'm a Jew, even though that is not something that you can say something
And
different.
it's easier to say you're a Jew if it doesn't cost you anything. It's much harder when it costs you.
So
Yeah,
and
but
yet,
it's easy to say, I'm not.
What is the difference between asking you if you're a Jew or if you're a Muslim or if you're a Buddhist? For
everyone would say what they are. That's not a test. That's not a test. The test is
That's
when you
really-
put to the test of life and death. Jews have risen to that test, whether they were idealistic
But
or
we're
not.
glad that you said
Let's
you were
move
good.
it on. Let's move on. I want to
It's
finish
not-
this
it's not-
chapter.
It's not easy. It's easy
I want to
say-
finish this
It's
chapter,
easy to
so
say
let's pay.
something different, but
Hence, all Jews, even the women and the illiterate, who never learned back then, believe in God, since faith is beyond understanding and comprehension. The idea of faith has nothing to do with understanding. It could be either under understanding
below
or above.
intellectual.
It could be below or it could be above. Let's see. For the simple believe everything, but the prudent man understands. So what does it mean? If you're prudent and you're smart, you understand, right? But when you believe, it's because you don't understand. In other words, belief is not understanding. It's not coming from intellect. But with regard to the Holy One, blessed be He, what do we see from this verse that he just quoted from the Proverbs? That faith doesn't come from belief doesn't come from knowledge. It's not knowledge. It could be silly belief, which would mean it's below knowledge, or it could be a sophisticated faith, which is above knowledge. That's what he's going to say now. But with regard to the Holy One, blessed be He, who is beyond intelligence and knowledge, Hashem, which is totally beyond that, and who can in no ways be comprehended by any thought. All men are like fools in His blessed presence, right? When you talk about the infinite God, everyone's a fool compared to that. No one can grasp that intellectually, right?
Mm-hmm.
As is written, so brutish am I and ignorant. I am as a beast before thee. What does it mean? I'm a beast before thee, like an animal. No understanding. Before God, there's no understanding. You can't understand anything. Yet I'm continually with you. This is a statement by King David, I think, right? Yeah, in Psalms. He says, I'm an animal, a beast. What does he say? I'm as a beast before you, yet I'm continually with you. Even though I don't understand you, I'm still I'm still devoted to you. That's one understanding of this verse. The Alter Rebbe over here is going to try to interpret it a little different. Because I am like a beast, that's why I'm with you. Because I don't understand you. And I have to relegate to deep faith. That's what makes me in touch with God Himself. Through understanding, I can never grasp Hashem. Through faith, I have. Because I'm like a beast, that's why I'm with you. Meaning that because I am brutish and as a beast, I'm continuing with thee. What's thee? The infinite God. Because that's not going to, I can't get that through intellect. Therefore, even the most worthless of worthless and the transgressors of the Israelites, transgressors, not idealistic Jews, in the majority of cases, sacrifice their lives for the sanctity of God's name and suffer harsh torture rather than deny the one God. Although they be boors and illiterate and ignorant of God's greatness, they know nothing about God's greatness, but they give up their life for it, even though they're not religious. For whatever little knowledge they do possess, that's not what makes them give up their life. They do not delve therein at all. That's not what makes. It's not that they're giving up the life because I understand this. No, it's not because of that. For whatever little knowledge they do possess, they do not delve therein at all. That's not what's happening when they put to the test of faith. They put it with a gun, give up your life, give up your Judaism. Or he says, I'm going to go to my death because I understand the little bit that I understand. That's not the experience. And so they do not give up their lives by reason of any knowledge and comprehension of God. That's not why they're giving up their life. Because many of them didn't have any knowledge of God, but they had Chochmah Shebenefesh. The Ein Sof, the infinite God, was in their Chochmah Shebenefesh, just like it was in the big, sophisticated, intelligent sage. Rather, do they suffer martyrdom without any knowledge or reflection, but as if it were absolutely impossible to renounce the one God. Why? Because that's their identity. You can't deny yourself. By a Yid, godliness is his very self. It's his very identity. That's his neshama.
But not every Jew's going to do that, Rabbi.
Because they have freedom of choice.
That means they don't have any identity, or what?
No, they have it, but they're choosing not to because it's concealed. They don't know about it. But if you know about it, you're going to do this. It's an amazing thing.
I have a question for you.
One second. Let me just finish the chapter. I promise you'll ask any question.
And without reason.
And without any reason or hesitation, whatever. This is because the one God illuminates and animates their entire nefesh. That's what gives life to their whole soul. The God, the Ein Sof, the infinite God, through being clothed in its faculty of Chochmah, which is beyond any graspable and understood knowledge or intelligence. That's why Chochmah is the seat where Hashem can sit down or be present. It's because Chochmah is beyond knowledge, and knowledge is not what grasps God. It's beyond knowledge, and that's why a Yid is incapable. He's physically, simply incapable of giving up this identity. Now, that doesn't mean that they take away the freedom of choice, like you're asking. That has happened, but for me, it's enough if 100 cases didn't happen that way. The way 100 Jews did give up, that weren't idealistic. That's a sign that there's something here that's unique. That's what's unique.
So, what happened in Masada, for instance?
Masada, on the contrary, they gave up their life.
Is that a good example of being a Jew, basically? And Chochmah
that's a controversial story. Masada, not everyone agreed that what they did was good, but I think whatever. But it's an example of what they
gave up their lives for being Jews.
Yeah.
The same thing.
No, but it was different.
It was different because they were going to be killed. So they committed suicide before being killed.
They were going to, in every case, like the Inquisition.
No, that's different. In the Inquisition, they were not going to kill you. If you gave up your religion, they would save you. That's the whole thing.
If you don't give up your religion,
they would kill you.
Supposed to be a Jew,
right?
Then they will kill you.
They'll throw you out. Yeah, they have to leave Spain. But Spain is only one example. There are many others in the history of the Jewish people
there were several inquisitions in different countries.
Right, and they gave up. Many Jews gave up their life, even though they were not so religious people on a day-to-day level. That's the proof that there's a neshama, that there's an identity that they can't deny.
So you say faith is actually something you see, right?
Faith is something faith that's above knowledge is something you experience. You see.
Just said
like seeing.
Something you see.
Like seeing and even more, experiencing.
So
the lightning bolt.
More.
So you don't have to have faith in God because you see God, right?
That's faith.
Where do you see God, Rabbi?
That's the point. The neshama sees it. The neshama feels it. The neshama can't deny it. The neshama is a piece of God. And you have it in you. And that's why we believe. That's why we can't give up this faith, no matter what.
We don't actually see God physically.
Not with our eyes, not with our physical eyes, but it's like we see it because the neshama is totally aware of it because God's shining in it. It's our experience. It's our very identity. You had a question. I
Yeah,
don't
the
remember
question
what it
is,
was.
You show us a video one time. With
What?
You showed us a video one time.
Yeah.
Where a Jew came to the rabbi and I say, I was a Jew, but I'm a Christian.
Oh, yeah, I remember that video. Yeah.
And the rabbi say, this is wrong, this is
Yeah,
wrong.
yeah.
And this Jew ends in the video.
Right.
you know,
Jesus, returning to Judaism. Yeah.
So my question to you is, there's a lot of people that they return to Judaism. A lot of people that they, those stories, and I know one story, from the guy was a Christian, and they know that they came from the Judaism and came back. So what is the neshama in that case where a Jew was not a Jew and they get back to the Judaism? You know what I mean?
Where he was secular and then he returned to
He
Judaism.
never lost in a shaman.
No, he never lost the shaman.
He always had it. He didn't know.
He just don't know. No, they didn't educate him in Torah mitzvahs, and he found it later. That's a phenomenon that happens in thousands today.
I'm not too clear about the idealism things, Robert.
Why not?
Well, because I still believe that people from other religions can have the same.
Idealism?
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. I'm saying that's the only way they're going to give up their life is if they have idealism. I'm saying Jews are the only ones that
Yeah,
don't
but I'm
need
saying
idealism.
that people from other religions don't have idealism. They just
They won't give up their life. If they're not idealistic about it, no, they'll show me another case. I challenge you to show me one case
Christian
of a
people
secular
died for
Christian,
Jesus.
only very religious ones. Only very religious
But that's the same situation.
No, it isn't. I'm telling you, secular Jews give up their life for Judaism. You will never find a secular Christian giving up his life for his Christianity. You'll never find it. It just doesn't exist. And because they're normal people. The Jews are a little meshuggah because they have something in them that is it's beyond. What's meshuggah? By the way, what is meshuggah? What does meshuggah mean?
Crazy.
What does crazy mean? Above knowledge. You could be crazy in a bad way. You could be crazy in a good way.
See?
Crazy in a good way. This chachma
Okay, now.
shebenefesh is beyond knowledge. It's beyond knowledge. That's sophisticated meshuggah. There's unsophisticated crazy, and you see them all in the mental institutions. But you have sophisticated craziness is chachma shebenefesh. So in the first chapters till 17, the Alter Rebbe told us there's a faith. A love for Hashem that comes from bina, from understanding God's greatness. In chapter 18, he's telling you we have a love for Hashem that comes from chachma. It's way beyond.
I have a quick. What about you take
It's
a?
much more profound.
Because we've had this conversation before about this, and I've had the same issue that you're having, and I still. What if you have a Christian family, right? And they have a kid, and the parents are, very devout Christians, or they became devout Christians after the kid was raised, right? But the kid loves his parents, and the kid, he's not a devout Christian, but he knows how strongly his parents believe. He said, I love my parents. I respect my parents. Yeah. They believe so deeply in this. I don't follow it. I don't. And he's put to the test.
You think he's going to go to his death? Not a chance.
Not a chance.
Under no circumstances.
So, Rabbi,
you're dealing so cavalierly with giving up life. You know what it means to give up your life? You think people are going to give up their life if they don't really passionately believe in this and experience this at every level? Of course not.
The Pope wouldn't give up his life.
The Pope is idealistic about Christianity.
Right. The Pope is not. We're talking about somebody who's not
realistic. Not
I'm trying to put what if he?
There's
just
no way someone
parents,
that's not passionate is giving up his life. It's never gonna happen, and I don't expect them to.
So,
why would someone die for something he's not idealistic about?
So let me ask you a question.
That's not part of his life.
His parents are.
You're not giving up your life. You're not giving up your life, man, because my father likes something. I'm gonna die for it. That's ridiculous. No one does it. There's no such thing. It's not gonna happen.
Would a non-Jew that converts to Judaism give up his life?
Yeah, because he gets an neshama when he converts. They have the chochmah shebenefesh. They have it all. They have everything.
That's a good deal.
It is a good deal.
Why is it a good deal?
You get the whole package if you convert.
Yeah, sure. That's what conversion is. You get a
lot of work.
That's what conversion is. You get this neshama. There's nothing that is the definition of
Not every
conversion.
Jew is like that.
I agree with you. It's enough that
So
someone.
there's a little bit of conflict there.
There's not a conflict. I said every Jew, even though he has this, can go against his grain. You have freedom of choice. You can choose to do something
But
that's
if you
totally
really
against
have
you.
that neshama inside of being a
But
Jew,
you may not know it. You have to know that you have a neshama. You have to know that you have a neshama. If you're not aware of it, how do you expect it to have any effect on you? You got to know that you have it.
There was a thief.
He knew, he knew that he had a neshama.
He wasn't a Jew. He wasn't religious.
He wasn't religious, but he knew he had a neshama. He was educated in the
How did he
shtetl.
know?
His father told him that was part of his wealth anshan, that he lived in the community. He was part of the Judaism, but he wasn't careless. He was careless about it.
I believe some Jews
Today you
that
can
would
find
give up
Jews
their life,
That would.
may not know that they have a neshama.
They may not
I believe
articulate it that way.
Yeah, I don't
But
think
they-
you have
but-
to know you have a neshama.
But they
to do
have
that.
to. It could be that they won't articulate it neshama soul. They may not know that, but they know about that. So why are they giving up their life?
Because they just it's just inside of them.
Oh, so they're
Exactly.
feeling it. So they're feeling
But,
it.
but it's,
So they're feeling
knowing
it.
you have a neshama is not a condition, Rabbi.
It isn't. It's you have to have some feeling or knowledge. You have something. You have to have.
I don't know.
No, you know what? As a person that gives up his, so why is he giving up his life? Because he has something. There's something going
He has
on
a
in his
neshama,
brain when
even
this
though he
happens.
doesn't know it.
Okay, that's my point. So he feels it. If he doesn't know it, it's got to be conscious somewhere. He has to be conscious of this somewhere, either in the feeling or in his brain. He's got to. It has to register somewhere.
Otherwise, he's not.
Otherwise, he's not going to do it. Why would he give up his life? He doesn't even know he's Jewish.
But he may not know. Even though it registers, he may not know he has it.
So what does it mean it registers?
He just has the instinct.
Okay,
feels
that's
it.
a register. That's something. That's a
registered.
feeling.
Right.
He knows it. He has a knowledge of it. Yeah. Someone that's giving up his life for his neshama,
Right.
for his Judaism, knows that he has got something. He knows that he has
Exactly.
that he's connected. Okay, so that's what I'm talking about. If you don't know, then you don't know. I don't expect you to do it if you don't even know you have it. That's a different thing. And then there were people that did know they had it, and yet they didn't give up their life. That happened in religion, in Judaism. And as I said, that's because a person does have freedom of choice. And he could choose not to.
So if you don't give up your life as a Jew, does that make you less of a Jew?
Ultimately, it doesn't make you less of a Jew, but what it does is you're in a deep, deep exile. You're in a very bad place. A person that you converted out of the faith is in a very desperate state of
A
existence.
lot of people converted, but they didn't really convert. They're just-
I know, but that alone is already bad. You'll see later, the Alter Rebbe is going to say in chapter 19, I believe, or maybe it's a later chapter, that even as an external thing, he wouldn't do it. A Yid is simply not capable of denying God. Can't do it. Can't do it.
It's like not eating nuts on or in Rosh Hashanah
Why?
because you don't want because of the word, the Hebrew word for nut, like you said the other day,
Yeah, but it's
sin. So the Alter Rebbe says, I'm not even in an external way, in any way, shape, or form, am I going to connect myself with the not.
I think what we have to do is try to imagine giving up your life for a faith. We don't even know what it means. 100 years ago, Jews knew what that meant. They did it day in and day out. They were doing it. Unfortunately,
But God
go
only-
home for 10 minutes. Think about this.
Yeah.
Put yourself in the shoes. You're being threatened. You're in communist Russia, wherever you're in Rome. And you ask. Imagine someone came to you today in your house and said, "If you don't deny God right now and I'm going to kill you."
I think it would be harder for us
Rabbi,
than for them.
Imagine that.
Doesn't
It's a
our
sin,
religion
not an
say-
easy thing.
Judaism say that we have to try as much as we can to save our lives.
Not if it comes to denying God. You're not allowed
No,
to
you're not denying. You're not just
by
denying
giving up your religion. Yeah. By
You
giving,
still believe in God.
no. But
Not the religion.
but accepting upon yourself another God. You're not allowed to do that, even at the cost of death.
That's the same God.
No, another God. I said, if you're accepting upon yourself another God, which is whether it's this religion or that religion, to convert out of Judaism, a Jew is not allowed to do that. Doesn't mean they didn't. Some did, as I said. You're not allowed to eat pork. People eat pork. You're not allowed to. So many things. You're not allowed to lie, but we lie, right? We have freedom of choice. We have freedom of choice even in this. Even though it goes against everything you are, you still have freedom. But Alter Rebbe said, mostly Jews have given up their life instead of doing this. Instead of that comes from Choch. That can't be. That's not a. This is something that's beyond.
Again, what I tell you
That
before,
shows that there's an identity.
okay, when I tell you before, when it came from Kosa coming from the Neshama, from something,
Yeah.
it's nothing you can understood. When I told you before that when you born, you get some, some idea that there is some, God or all this stuff, you told me no.
If you're talking about your neshama, that you're born with a neshama, of course you're born with a neshama. Yeah, absolutely.
And I have a question for you. Maybe say it's
Let me just conclude the class.
okay.
I'm going to conclude here, say good night to everyone that's watching, and I'll stay for questions. All the best. Have a happy and healthy New Year, Shana Tova, to everyone watching. All the best. We'll see you after Rosh Hashanah.
Good night, everybody.